Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to be looking at a hidden, highly active world that's operating right inside your home's brickwork. We tend to think of buildings as these completely static objects, but the reality is actually much more dynamic. By the time we wrap up here, you'll understand the exact mechanics of how brick pointing stops leaks and how it actively works to keep your home safe, dry, and structurally sound.
Okay, let's dive into this because there's a really common illusion that we absolutely need to shatter right off the bat. Your home's brick walls may look nice and strong, but they fight a quiet battle against the elements every single day. We look at a brick wall and we just see permanence, right? But in reality, your walls are frontline soldiers. They are constantly taking the brunt of rain, wind, and wild temperature shifts.
All right, let's get into section 1, the quiet brick wall battle.
So, when we look at a house, we naturally focus on the tough, solid bricks. Makes sense. But the real vulnerability, it's actually the space holding them together. Brick pointing, which is sometimes called repointing, is the process of renewing the mortar between those bricks. People often think of mortar as just, a static glue, but it's actually a crucial weather seal. It's a highly dynamic first line of defense designed specifically to stop rainwater from snaking into the gaps. Basically, it doesn't just hold your house up, it literally keeps the weather out.
Moving right along to section 2, how water breaks mortar down. So if mortar is our trusty shield, how does it eventually fail? Well, we have to follow the microscopic journey of a single raindrop trying to penetrate that wall over time. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it breaks down the insidious freeze-thaw cycle. Step 1, water sneaks into these tiny, almost invisible cracks in the aging mortar. Step 2 is where the real damage happens. The temperature drops outside, that trapped water freezes, and naturally, it expands. Step 3, that expansion literally forces the mortar to break apart from the inside out. And finally, step 4, larger gaps appear and the wall completely loses its water tightness. It's a really slow, quiet process, but it is incredibly destructive. Which brings us to section 3, the hidden dangers of damp.
Once that water tightness is gone, we have a major problem on our hands. Crumbling mortar is not just a cosmetic issue. It is so easy to look at a slightly weathered exterior wall and think, oh, it just gives the house a bit of vintage character. But while worn joints might just look a little ugly on the outside, a very real danger is actively brewing right beneath the surface.
Let's walk through the terrifying domino effect of water ingress. First, water soaks past the failed mortar and right into the brickwork itself. Pretty soon, you'll start noticing damp patches forming on your internal walls, and that inevitably leads to mold growth, peeling paint, and ruined plaster. But here is the absolutely most alarming part. In colder environments, that trapped moisture freezes and expands inside the wall, causing the bricks themselves to crack and break away. It's a process known as spalling. So what started as a tiny millimeter-wide cap in the mortar has now developed into an incredibly expensive structural problem. Let's look at the solution in section 4, how pointing stops the leaks. Thankfully, it's not all doom and gloom here. The ultimate solution, the real hero of our story, is a freshly applied, high-quality mortar pointing job. And this brilliantly illustrates its counterintuitive dual superpower. On one hand, fresh pointing acts as a tight, weatherproof seal. It fills every single gap perfectly, so heavy rainwater simply runs right off the wall, instead of pooling in the joints, literally stopping the leaks at the source. But at the exact same time, it provides wall breathability. You see, good mortar is actually designed to allow trapped moisture vapor to safely escape from within the wall, so it keeps the heavy rain out while letting the internal moisture breathe out. It's a remarkably clever balance. So, how do you know when to act? Let's cover section 5, when to call the experts. We've covered the science, but how does this actually apply to you? Think of this as your personal diagnostic checklist. If you walk outside your home right now, here are the physical warning signs to look for. First, look at the depth. If the mortar is recessed more than a few millimeters, that's a major red flag. Second, give it a poke. If the joints crumble when you press them with a finger or a tool, it's failing. And yes, I am officially giving you permission to go poke your house. Third, look for visible cracks. And finally, timing is absolutely everything. Experts highly recommend doing this check immediately after a harsh winter because that's exactly when that freeze-thaw damage is most apparent. Now, if you do spot those warning signs, it's time to bring in the pros. And when the experts handle this, they don't just slather new mortar over dirty, damaged walls. They prepare the surface safely using some really advanced, non-abrasive methods. They might use DOF, which is a high-temperature superheated steam method, or TARC, a gentle, low-pressure vortex system. Why does this whole pre-cleaning thing matter? Because cleaning the brickwork safely first ensures that the new repointing will be incredibly durable and bind perfectly to the structure to stop future leaks dead in their tracks. So, the crucial point is this. Protecting your home from water damage doesn't always mean opting for expensive waterproofing or full-scale repairs. It is vital to remember that simple, timely mortar maintenance is often the absolute best, most cost-effective way to avoid massive structural repair bills down the line. It's all about being proactive rather than reactive. Which brings us to a final, very important question for you to ponder. Is your home's first line of defense ready for the next heavy rain? I highly encourage you to take a quick walk around your property today, use that diagnostic checklist we went over, and just check your mortar. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.